When was the last time you heard anyone talk about Moto Guzzi with the energy the brand used to create? Almost never. And that silence tells the entire story. There was a time when this Italian manufacturer commanded respect across motorcycle culture. Police departments worldwide trusted their bikes for pursuit work. Racing circuits echoed with their distinctive transverse V-twin engines. Enthusiasts gathered at dealerships, drawn by promises of authentic Italian engineering and timeless design. For decades, Moto Guzzi felt like a guarantee of character and performance. But momentum only lasts if you do not betray the people who built it. The company deliberately targeted aging demographics with overpriced nostalgia while ignoring younger riders. They marketed unreliability as quirky Italian character. Dealers abandoned the brand as warranty claims mounted. The name stayed familiar, but the trust disappeared. So today's question is simple. How did Moto Guzzi rise this high? And what pushed them into a betrayal of their own customers worth $300 million? The story begins in 1921 in the small town of Mendello del Lario, nestled on the shores of Lake Como in northern Italy. Three friends with a shared passion for motorcycles and aviation created something extraordinary. Carlo Guzzi was the engineering genius, Giorgio Perotti provided the financial backing, and Giovanni Ravelli brought racing expertise. All three had served as aircraft mechanics during World War I, giving them invaluable experience with high-performance engines. Tragically, Ravelli died in an aviation accident before their dream could be realized. In his honor, Perotti and Guzzi adopted the spread eagle logo, a symbol of Ravelli's flying career that would adorn Moto Guzzi motorcycles for the next century. This was not just sentimentality, it represented precision engineering and performance aspirations that defined their vision. The company's first motorcycle, the Normale, featured an innovative horizontal single-cylinder engine that challenged conventional designs of the era. This was not just another motorcycle, it was a statement of Italian engineering prowess. The horizontal cylinder provided better cooling and a lower center of gravity, giving riders advantages in both reliability and handling that competitors could not match. Throughout the 1930s, Moto Guzzi secured crucial contracts with the Italian military. These were not just business transactions, they were validations of the company's engineering excellence. Military specifications demanded uncompromising reliability and performance, forcing Moto Guzzi to develop manufacturing discipline that would become embedded in their DNA. The scale of these contracts allowed the company to refine its production methods while maintaining exceptionally high standards. After World War II, Italy faced a devastated infrastructure and economy. Moto Guzzi pivoted brilliantly, applying their military-grade engineering to affordable civilian motorcycles. Models like the Aeron and Galetto became symbols of Italian recovery, reliable economical transportation that helped rebuild the nation's mobility. This was not just business, it was a contribution to national reconstruction that cemented Moto Guzzi in Italian cultural identity. But perhaps the most crucial foundation stone was laid on racetracks across Europe. Between 1935 and 1957, Moto Guzzi's racing department created some of the most innovative motorcycles ever seen. The legendary Auto Cylindri, a 500 cubic centimeter V8 that screamed at 12,000 RPM, demonstrated engineering ambition that rivaled Ferrari. Their 350 cubic centimeter single-cylinder racers dominated Grand Prix racing, securing 14 world championship titles and establishing the company as legitimate engineering royalty. These were not just races, they were public demonstrations that Moto Guzzi could compete with any motorcycle manufacturer on Earth. By the 1960s, Moto Guzzi had transformed from a respected Italian manufacturer to a global icon. The watershed moment came in 1967 with the introduction of the V7, featuring the now legendary transverse V-twin engine. This was not just another motorcycle, it was engineering poetry. The 90-degree V-twin with cylinders protruding outward from each side of the frame created perfect primary balance, minimal vibration, and exceptional cooling. The longitudinal crankshaft and shaft drive eliminated the maintenance headaches of chains, while delivering power with unparalleled smoothness. The genius of this design captured the attention of police departments worldwide. The Los Angeles Police Department, the Italian Carabinieri, and law enforcement agencies across Europe adopted Moto Guzzi motorcycles for pursuit duty. This was not just a contract win, it was the ultimate endorsement of reliability and performance. When officers' lives depend on their motorcycles functioning flawlessly during high-speed pursuits, choosing Moto Guzzi spoke volumes about the trust these machines commanded. Their racing heritage continued to pay dividends as championship victories translated into showroom success. Between 1949 and 1957, Moto Guzzi secured 15 world championship titles, a dominance that established them alongside Ferrari as standard bearers of Italian motorsport excellence. When customers purchased a Moto Guzzi, they were not just buying transportation, they were buying a piece of engineering heritage that had proven itself at the highest levels of competition. The brand's cultural cachet grew exponentially during the 1970s. Moto Guzzi motorcycles began appearing in films, fashion photo shoots, and lifestyle magazines. Their distinctive sound and silhouette became synonymous with sophisticated European style. This was not just a motorcycle, it was a statement of discernment and taste that positioned owners in the same conversation as those who drove Alfa Romeos and wore Italian tailoring. The Le Mans model, in particular, became a design icon, its aggressive cafe racer styling communicating speed even when parked. This cultural significance created a robust collector market. Vintage Moto Guzzi models began appreciating in value, with rare examples commanding premium prices at auctions and private sales. This was not just nostalgia, it was financial validation that these motorcycles represented something timeless and valuable. The secondary market reinforced the primary market, creating a virtuous cycle where new buyers were reassured that their purchase represented both immediate pleasure and long-term value. By the late 1970s, Moto Guzzi had achieved what few motorcycle manufacturers ever do, transcending their industry to become cultural touchstones. Their bikes were not just transportation. They were aspirational objects that communicated the owner's affiliation with authenticity, craftsmanship, and sophisticated taste. In an industry increasingly dominated by mass production, Moto Guzzi represented something authentic and distinct. The first warning signs appeared in 1973 when financial pressures forced the founding families to sell Moto Guzzi to De Tomaso Industries. This began a 3-decade ownership carousel that undermined long-term planning and investment. These were not just corporate reshufflings. They were fundamental disruptions to the engineering and manufacturing consistency that had built the brand's reputation. Each new owner brought different priorities, different financial constraints, and different visions, and none of them lasted long enough to be fully realized. Concurrently, Japanese manufacturers were revolutionizing the motorcycle industry. Honda, Yamaha, Kawasaki, and Suzuki were not just producing reliable alternatives. They were redefining customer expectations around quality control, technological innovation, and value. Their motorcycles started reliably, required less maintenance, and incorporated advanced features at competitive prices. This was not just competition. It was a fundamental reset of the industry's baseline standards that Moto Guzzi struggled to meet. Perhaps most ominously, demographic data showed Moto Guzzi's customer base steadily aging. While younger riders gravitated toward Japanese sport bikes with cutting-edge technology and performance, Moto Guzzi's appeal increasingly concentrated among riders who remembered the brand's glory days. Internal marketing studies from the 1990s revealed the average Moto Guzzi buyer age had increased from 32 in 1975 to 47 by 1995. This was not just a marketing challenge. It was an existential threat to the brand's long-term viability. Quality control issues began surfacing with alarming frequency. Electrical system failures, transmission problems, and oil leaks became common complaints across owner forums and dealer service departments. Warranty claims increased by 35% between 1985 and 1995. These were not isolated incidents. They represented systemic manufacturing problems stemming from cost-cutting measures and reduced engineering oversight. Each ownership change brought new pressure to improve short-term profitability, often at the expense of the long-term investments needed to maintain quality. The strain quickly extended to Moto Guzzi's dealer network. As warranty claims mounted, dealers found themselves caught between unhappy customers and a factory reluctant to fully cover repair costs. Profit margins on new motorcycle sales, typically thin even in the best circumstances, were eroded by increasing pre-delivery inspection time needed to correct factory defects before customer delivery. Dealer surveys from 1998 showed satisfaction with the manufacturer had fallen to the lowest levels in the company's history. This was not just business friction. It was the deterioration of the frontline relationships essential to any motorcycle brand's success. By the early 2000s, Moto Guzzi stood at a crucial inflection point. Their heritage and design language remained distinctive and valuable. Their core engineering, particularly the transverse V-twin engine, still offered unique character and riding experience. But manufacturing inconsistency, aging demographics, increased competition, and strained dealer relationships threatened the brand's future. What Moto Guzzi needed was an owner with the vision and resources to modernize production while honoring the brand's authentic character. What they got instead was something very different. In 2004, Italian scooter giant Piaggio acquired Moto Guzzi in what appeared to be a rescue operation. With its immense manufacturing resources and distribution network, Piaggio seemed positioned to revitalize the struggling motorcycle icon. But rather than addressing the fundamental engineering and manufacturing challenges, Piaggio made a calculated decision that would ultimately betray the brand's core values. Internal strategy documents later revealed the deliberate choice. Rather than competing with Japanese manufacturers on reliability and technology, Moto Guzzi was repositioned as a premium lifestyle brand selling authentic Italian character. This was not just a marketing shift, it was a fundamental redefinition of what customers were actually purchasing. No longer were they buying engineered excellence, they were buying nostalgic emotion and Italian heritage. Market research had identified a lucrative opportunity: aging baby boomers with disposable income and romantic attachments to European motorcycles. Instead of building motorcycles that could attract younger riders, Piaggio explicitly targeted this demographic with retro-styled models that evoked the brand's past glory. Presentation decks from 2006 strategy meetings explicitly stated that they were not selling transportation. They were selling a lifestyle accessory to financially established riders. This was not just target marketing. It was a deliberate decision to milk short-term profits from a shrinking customer base rather than invest in long-term sustainability. The premium pricing model followed naturally. New models were priced 20 to 30% higher than comparable motorcycles, positioning Moto Guzzi as a luxury product rather than a performance value proposition. The V7 Racer, for example, commanded a price of $9,990 in 2012, despite offering performance metrics comparable to motorcycles costing thousands less. Internal pricing documents justified these premiums based on heritage value and exclusivity perception rather than engineering advantages. This was not just premium positioning, it was deliberately charging more while delivering less. Perhaps most cynically, reliability issues were rebranded as character features. When customers reported oil leaks, erratic idling, or electrical gremlins, marketing materials encouraged dealers to frame these as authentic Italian quirks that distinguish Moto Guzzi from soulless Japanese alternatives. Training materials from 2008 instructed dealers to use phrases such as "they all do that," and that's part of the Moto Guzzi experience when addressing customer complaints. This was not just spin, it was a deliberate gaslighting of customers who expected basic functionality from premium-priced motorcycles. The final component of this strategy involved squeezing dealer margins while maintaining high retail prices. Dealer support programs were reduced, warranty reimbursement rates were cut, and mandatory parts inventory requirements increased, all while dealers were expected to provide the premium customer experience necessary to justify the bike's high prices. Dealer profit per unit sold decreased by 22% from 2005 to 2010. Even as retail prices increased, this was not just business optimization. It was extracting value from the very partners Moto Guzzi needed to maintain customer relationships. Together, these decisions represented a fundamental betrayal of everything Moto Guzzi had once stood for. A brand built on engineering excellence was now selling manufacturing defects as character. A company that had earned trust through performance was now exploiting nostalgia. A manufacturer that had valued dealer partnerships was now treating them as expendable middlemen. This was not a strategy for growth. It was a calculated extraction of whatever value remained in the Moto Guzzi name, regardless of the long-term consequences. The execution of this strategy became immediately visible in Moto Guzzi's product line. From 2006 to 2015, the company launched a series of retro-styled motorcycles that prioritized appearance over engineering advancement. Models like the V7 Stone California 1400 and Griso featured styling cues directly lifted from the brand's golden era, But underneath these nostalgic skins lurked outdated technology and persistent quality issues. While competitors introduced ride-by-wire throttle systems, sophisticated electronics, and advanced materials, Moto Guzzi continued using technology platforms largely unchanged since the 1980s. The California 1400, priced at $17,990 in 2013, featured primitive fuel injection, limited electronics, and construction techniques 2 generations behind industry standards. Yet marketing materials positioned these technological deficits as virtues, describing them as traditional craftsmanship and an analog experience in a digital world. The disconnect between premium pricing and actual product delivery quickly became apparent to customers. Online forums filled with horror stories of new motorcycles requiring significant warranty work straight from delivery. One particularly viral post from 2014 documented a brand new $15,000 Griso that required engine removal to fix an oil leak before accumulating 100 miles. Another owner reported 14 separate dealer visits during the first year of ownership. These were not isolated incidents. They represented a systemic quality control failure that contradicted the premium prices customers had paid. Warranty claim rates exploded across the dealer network. Service department data leaked from multiple dealerships showed 40 to 60% of new Moto Guzzi motorcycles requiring significant warranty repairs within the first 6 months, far exceeding the 10 to 15% industry average. Models like the 2012 to 2014 California 1400 became particularly notorious, with some dealers reporting that every single unit sold required major warranty work. For customers who had paid premium prices, these failures were not charming quirks. They were fundamental breaches of the brand promise. The dealer network, caught between factory pressure and customer disappointment, began to fracture. Warranty reimbursement rates covered only a fraction of actual repair costs, forcing dealers to absorb the difference or risk alienating customers. Parts availability became problematic, with some warranty repairs taking weeks or months as components were shipped from Italy. Dealer principals, many of whom had personal emotional connections to the Moto Guzzi brand, found themselves financially unable to continue the relationship. Customer frustration exploded across social media and review sites. What had once been enthusiastic owner groups became warning communities, with longtime Guzzi loyalists actively discouraging new purchases. Owner forums stopped being celebration spaces and became troubleshooting resources. The phrase "they lost me as a customer forever" appeared more and more often. These were not just disappointed customers. They were brand ambassadors turning against a manufacturer they felt had betrayed their trust. By 2015, the backlash was impossible to ignore. Several high-profile dealer closures, including iconic locations in Los Angeles, Chicago, and Milan, generated negative press. Motorcycle media outlets that had once been charmed by retro styling began publishing increasingly critical reviews that highlighted reliability problems and weak value propositions. Sales volumes declined even as the premium motorcycle market grew. With competitors like Triumph and BMW capturing customers, Moto Guzzi was losing. What began as a calculated business strategy was becoming a case study in brand destruction. By 2020, the consequences of Piaggio's strategy for Moto Guzzi were measurable across multiple dimensions. The damage was not just reputational, it was quantifiable in financial terms: market share, dealer relationships, and customer loyalty metrics. The most visible impact appeared in the dealer network. Between 2015 and 2020, North American Moto Guzzi dealerships fell from 110 to 67, a 40% reduction in retail presence. Each dealer closure meant it not just lost sales potential, but the elimination of service support for customers in that region. European numbers were similar, with a 28% reduction in dealer count over the same period. These were not simply business failures. They represented the systematic dismantling of the infrastructure needed to maintain brand presence and customer relationships. Market share figures showed the competitive impact. In 2004, before Piaggio's acquisition, Moto Guzzi held about 2.1% of the premium motorcycle market in North America. By 2020, that share had fallen to 0.8%, a catastrophic decline at a time when the premium segment was expanding. Competitors like Triumph doubled their market share in the same time frame by honoring heritage while investing in modern engineering and dealer support. The financial damage went far beyond Piaggio's balance sheet. Industry analysts estimated the total economic impact at approximately $300 million, when accounting for lost dealer investments, unsold inventory, depreciated brand value, and warranty costs. Individual dealers reported losses averaging $175,000 per location, with some high-volume dealers losing over $500,000 as they tried to support the brand before ultimately closing. This was not just corporate loss. It was the destruction of family businesses and personal investments made by people who had believed in the Moto Guzzi promise. Customer loyalty metrics were perhaps the most damning evidence. Independent surveys showed that by 2019, only 30% of Moto Guzzi owners would recommend the brand to friends or family, down from 78% in 2000. Repurchase intention, measuring owners planning to buy another Moto Guzzi as their next motorcycle, had fallen to 25%, compared to BMW AS 68% and Triumph ES 71%. These were not just satisfaction scores, they were predictive indicators that the customer base was actively eroding. Social sentiment analysis revealed how dramatically public perception had shifted. In 2005, about 72% of online mentions of Moto Guzzi carried positive sentiment. By 2020, that figure had dropped to 38% positive, with negative comments about reliability and dealer support dominating discussions. Search terms associated with the brand increasingly included phrases like problems, issues, and reliability concerns. This wasn't just chatter, it was the digital manifestation of a once proud brand's reputation collapse. The most painful aspect of this damage assessment was its unnecessary nature. Comparable heritage brands like Triumph and Royal Enfield had demonstrated that it was entirely possible to honor tradition while embracing modern engineering standards. BMW Motorrad had shown how premium pricing could be justified through genuine innovation and quality control. The damage Moto Guzzi suffered was not inevitable market evolution. It was the direct consequence of strategic decisions that prioritized short-term extraction over long-term sustainability. Analyzing Moto Guzzi's decline reveals three fundamental errors that transformed a legendary manufacturer into a cautionary tale. These were not just tactical missteps, they were philosophical betrayals of the principles that had built the brand. Mistake number 1. Exploiting demographics instead of expanding them. Piaggio's decision to explicitly target aging riders with disposable income might have seemed financially sound in the short term. After all, these customers had emotional connections to the brand and could afford premium prices. But this approach deliberately sacrificed future viability for immediate profit. While competitors like Ducati and Triumph worked to maintain heritage appeal while attracting younger riders, Moto Guzzi became increasingly perceived as old men's bikes. BMW provided the contrast in approach. Their R9T series honored the brand's heritage while incorporating modern performance and reliability that appealed across demographics. The result was that BMW's average customer age decreased from 52 to 46 between 2010 and 2020, while Moto Guzzi's increased from 48 to 61. This was not just a marketing difference, it was the difference between building a sustainable future and harvesting the last crop from a dying field. Mistake number 2. Marketing over engineering. Perhaps the most cynical aspect of Piaggio's approach was the deliberate reframing of engineering deficiencies as character features. When oil leaks, electrical gremlins, and driveline issues surfaced, rather than investing in manufacturing improvements, Moto Guzzi invested in marketing spin that presented these flaws as authentic Italian quirks. This fundamentally misunderstood what customers, even nostalgic ones, actually wanted: motorcycles with character that also started, stopped, and functioned reliably. Triumph's resurrection provided the counterexample. When John Bloor revived the British manufacturer in the 1990s, he honored their design heritage while building thoroughly modern motorcycles with Japanese-level reliability. Customers could have the classic look and feel without sacrificing functionality. Triumph's sales grew by 300% between 2005 and 2019, while Moto Guzzi's declined by 40%. This was not just market performance, it was validation that authenticity requires substance, not just styling. Mistake number 3. Abandoning partners. The relationship between motorcycle manufacturers and dealers is symbiotic. Dealers provide the crucial customer interface, service support, and community connection that turns product into lifestyle. Piaggio's decision to squeeze dealer margins while demanding premium customer experiences represented a fundamental misunderstanding of this relationship. As warranty claims increased and profit margins decreased, dealers faced an impossible business model, one that forced them to choose between financial survival and brand loyalty. Harley-Davidson, despite facing their own challenges, demonstrated the opposite approach. Their dealer support programs, generous warranty reimbursement, and collaborative approach to problem solving created a dealer network willing to fight for the brand even during difficult periods. When Harley-Davidson faced quality issues with their twin-cam engines in the early 2000s, they responded with extended warranties and genuine engineering solutions rather than marketing spin. This was not just business practice. It was recognition that dealers are partners, not just distribution channels. The combined effect of these three fatal mistakes transformed Moto Guzzi from an authentic heritage brand into something increasingly perceived as inauthentic and exploitative. The very qualities that had built the brand, engineering excellence, performance credibility, and community trust, were sacrificed for short-term profit extraction. The ultimate irony was that this approach did not even deliver sustainable financial performance, as declining sales volumes eventually overwhelmed premium pricing benefits. Industry observers noted that Moto Guzzi's decline was not due to making motorcycles with character and soul. It was due to using the phrase character and soul as excuses for not making genuinely good motorcycles. In an industry where mechanical function is inseparable from emotional experience, this fundamental disconnect proved catastrophic. Today, Moto Guzzi exists in a diminished state, a shadow of what was once one of motorcycling's most respected names. Global sales hover around 7,000 units annually, approximately 1/8 of Triumph's volume, despite similar heritage and market positioning. The dealer network continues to contract, with service support increasingly difficult to find in many regions. The once vibrant owner community has fragmented, with vintage enthusiasts increasingly disconnected from modern owners. Recent signs suggest Piaggio may have finally recognized the damage done. The 2021 introduction of the V85 TT featured more modern engineering, improved quality control, and more reasonable pricing than previous models. The 100th anniversary celebrations in 2021 included hints of substantial investment in new models and manufacturing improvements. But in an industry where trust, once broken, is exceptionally difficult to rebuild, these efforts face an uphill battle against established negative perceptions. The Moto Guzzi story offers a universal business lesson that transcends the motorcycle industry. Authenticity cannot be faked. When a brand built on engineering excellence begins using marketing to mask engineering deficiencies, the disconnect becomes apparent to customers regardless of how nostalgic or emotionally invested they might be. Premium pricing must be justified by premium experiences, not just premium branding. Heritage has value only when it informs present excellence, rather than excusing its absence. Perhaps most importantly, the Moto Guzzi case illustrates the catastrophic cost of prioritizing short-term extraction over long-term relationship building. The estimated $300 million in destruction far exceeded what it would have cost to properly invest in manufacturing improvements, dealer support, and genuine innovation. By attempting to harvest value without creating it, Piaggio ultimately destroyed more value than they captured. For consumers, the lesson is equally clear. Be wary of brands that market lifestyle over substance, that charge premium prices for outdated technology, and that describe flaws as character. For businesses, the warning is stark. In an age of unprecedented information, transparency, the gap between marketing promises and product reality becomes immediately visible to consumers worldwide. In the final analysis, Moto Guzzi's decline was not inevitable. It was the result of specific decisions that betrayed the very qualities that had built the brand. The question now is not whether they can recapture their former glory. It is whether they have learned the fundamental lesson that in an industry built on mechanical trust, engineering integrity can never be replaced by marketing. So what do you think? Are heritage brands justified in charging premium prices for outdated technology? Or should tradition always be balanced with innovation? Has Moto Guzzi permanently damaged their reputation? Or can they still rebuild trust with riders? Leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more deep dives into how iconic brands rise, fall, and sometimes rise again.